Time now for the unstoppable international press review. Sophie Davidson's here. Where are you going to go first?
Well, lots of talk about Obama and his stimulus plan, which is about to be voted on by the Senate.
$800 billion.
$800 billion.
Amazing, isn't it?
He says it's needed, and he's gone to a small town in Indiana called Elkhart to highlight why it's needed. Now, Elkhart suffers 18% unemployment at the moment. It's shot up from 4%, and that's why he's used it as a useful case study, and that's very much focused on in USA Today. Now, going over to Figaro in France, they're talking about Obama being very dramatic. He's changed his tone in the way he's talking about the stimulus plan and the economic crisis. He's calling the crisis a catastrophe, the worst disaster since the Great Depression, and talks of Washington's paralysis. And it says that Obama was not expecting and definitely underestimated the Republican capacity to block the plan.
Yes, indeed. Paralysis in Washington could make the crisis, well, a catastrophe, an even bigger catastrophe. Amazing stuff. What's next?
Well, Israel's at the polls today, as you've just been talking about in the headlines, and Haaretz focuses on today, and the journalist is putting himself in the position of the two main candidates, saying Netanyahu must be asking himself how could he have lost so many possible seats in the last 2 weeks and so much support, and also saying that Livni must be asking herself what alliances she'll have to make if she does indeed win. Now, let's go to Libération in France. That takes a look back at the campaign and basically says how rubbish and lacking in substance the whole campaign has been. There's little to choose between the candidates. All have played on fears of security. They've really played on that strongly, and all have lent towards the right as the campaign has gone on.
It's interesting that issues like corruption, which, had dogged the campaign beforehand, all that's been forgotten. All the other issues, it's all about security.
That's right.
Main obsession.
They haven't been talking about the economy. They haven't been talking about, job losses.
It's as though the economic crisis doesn't exist.
Exactly.
But of course, it might hit them at some stage, and it might indicate sort of where they might go. Someone with economic experience, perhaps. Australia, of course, burning. Very sad story, affecting a lot of people there. Any reaction in the papers?
Well, we've heard the horrifying stories coming out of Australia. We've heard about the death. We've heard about the panic. We've heard how it could be down to arson. Now it's the backlash against the government and how they've handled the whole crisis. The government is coming under criticism for giving rubbish advice, stay and defend, and a poor warning system. Now, one town received a warning saying if you haven't left already, it's too late. Wow. Some areas there were no warnings at all. Strong criticism for the government, who say some people are saying have failed to make people realise just how serious the situation was, and therefore they failed to act quickly enough.
We've seen Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister, on TV looking really, really affected by what's gone on, but clearly there's been a lot of misjudgment according to that paper.
There's a lot of questions being asked. Could the death toll have been lower if the government had learnt a few lessons from previous
Now,
bias?
Robert Mugabe and I have something in common. We share the same birth date, the 21st of February, so Mugabe's birthday is coming up. And he's in the papers.
I hope you have nothing else in common with Robert Mugabe, especially once you read this article, which is in the Times. They've got hold of a list being sent around to businesses in Zimbabwe from zealots in the ZANU-PF party who are soliciting donations for Mugabe's 85th birthday. Check this out. 2,000 bottles of champagne, 8,000 lobsters they want 100 kilograms of prawns, 4,000 portions of caviar. Now, this is the president of a country. 7 million Zimbabweans survive on international food aid. Cholera is rife. The population is debilitated by hunger. 94% are jobless. The juxtaposition of these two situations.
You don't need to condemn it. You just need to put the two things side by side, and people can make their own judgment.
Exactly.
But Mugabe's birthday celebrations. Okay. Sophie there with our international press review. You're watching France 24. Stay with us.